back again with young Happy, and we begin the second exercise where he's starting to learn the posture for carrying. So again I begin by teaching him the right distance, and of course from the first exercise he's knowing it a lot better, so you can spend less time on getting to this position. But this position he has here is where you need to be able to start, so that you know that the horse is listening and he's in a state of mind where he's ready to learn something, and he's in a position of rest, not a position of readiness. So then from the beginning when we start, again I make contact with the whip, that he's not thinking again that he has to run away from it. So when I approach him here, and I want to touch him all over, and he's thinking about either running away from the whip or leaning into the whip or defending himself from the whip, I just continue the rubbing and making sure that he's understanding that when the whip touches him, that doesn't necessarily mean that he has to move. So we get contact on him first, all over. This is also giving me a good idea where he's going to be sensitive in his body, sensitive around the head, around the ears, and which areas of his body maybe I need to focus on. So, of course, from this position also, when I've done the first ground exercises, the right steps, him controlling himself and understanding where to put his feet, he's already now in a position of more relaxation and ready for this part. And each step is to prepare him for the next. So as he goes along, he should get easier and easier, more understanding where he should be and having less moments when he's in the wrong place. So again, from the beginning here, once I make contact, he's focused here in front. I begin to put the energy towards the hind leg. So this he already knows. The first thing we did when moving the feet was move the hind leg. So then he knows a little bit about moving around. So in the beginning, I just try to focus that he's not running over me, because of course when you give energy to the hind legs, he's putting power forwards. And so I want to teach him that this is the limit. Keep your front legs there, that he's in the position, two eyes looking at me, and then not that I walk too much around, but I want to be able to give energy towards the hind leg, make contact with the whip. As soon as he takes the first steps that are a little bit forward, I take the whip away, send him a little bit back, and then I try to move him again, and then it's a balance between getting him to move to the side and not too much forward. There he's too much forward, take the whip away, backwards. I can even put the whip a little bit in front. For those of you that have horses that are really good at running over you, this is a really good one to help you keep them a little bit away. And then again here, turning the hind leg, and I want to be able to rest the whip on him. And then again I bump him back here, whip in front, take a few steps back, and then again to the side. So some horses will run a lot backwards, some might run a little bit sideways, some not moving at all. With a horse like him, he's wanting to run over the top of me. So in between, I am getting him to take the backward steps so that I teach him to keep his front legs in the same position, not over the top of me. And he has to turn the hind legs away from the whip. So there I get one or two steps that are okay. Then I let him rest. Good boy. So you give him the moment to think a little bit about it. So the important thing is keeping your positioning. I don't want to ever be stepping backwards away from this horse. Whenever he thinks he can push over the top of me, if I give him 1 millimeter here, he's going to just run over me. So I lift the left hand up a little bit to make it difficult. And if it gets really difficult that it becomes an argument, I put the whip in front of him again, let him know this is where he has to be. Again, energy towards the hind leg. I'm very upright. There's a really good step. There's good. And relax again. Good boy. Then I reward him. And then I go to the other side. So it's a little bit of a balancing act just between him going away from the pressure of the whip and him following my hand. And in between that, he is creating the bending that creates the posture. So here when he runs away from the whip, I keep the whip on him until he stops a little bit. So I'm keeping the contact of the whip against him. That was the other thing I forgot to mention. On a horse that is a little bit sensitive, I try to have a stiff whip or a soft whip like this where I can keep contact against him so that the stick is not hard and firm and bumping him and making him sharper. I want a whip that's going to make him softer. So this is a 130 long whip with a flapper on the end, not a real whippy sharp one, but something soft. And you'll feel it in your hand. You'll feel whips that make the horses more sharp and whips that make them more relaxed, and you have to find the one in the beginning that they follow the easiest. And then again, I start to take, not walking around, but in this position, keep the focus, push the energy, push the air towards him, then the voice. Then you get here the forward steps again. There's some correct ones. Good boy. So you don't have to worry too much if he's going to bend in the body. If he moves the hind leg underneath his body and he positions it sideways and underneath, and you have control of the front, that he's not going over you, he will automatically start to bend in the body. So here I have a little bit the problem where he puts the head maybe too much to the left, and then I get really on his left side. And what I want to do then is just control with my hand here a little bit the shoulder. So if he gets too much on this side, good boy, I'm just controlling the shoulders a little bit to the outside or a little bit to the inside. He's of course, he's very quick, so he's too much inside, then he's too much outside, then he's too much forward, then he's too much back. When he gets too busy, again I rest the whip on him, try to slow everything down so it gets controlled. Again to the side. There, he's bumping really into me, so I just let him know that that was a mistake. Then he's running from the whip again, gets a bit insecure, so I keep the contact again. And there starts to come together, there's together. Good boy. So again, as soon as he starts to follow a little bit the direction of the whip, then I relax again. So there's a lot going on here, but it's a good horse. Happy's giving a really good demonstration of some of the things you might run into, especially on your sensitive horses. We never want him that he's running too much away from the whip. When he's pushing on me and starting to pull on my clothes or bite me a little bit, I just try to change his body posture into more backwards. So the biting starts by pushing on you, and then he's over you, and then he's on you. So once his body language or his posture starts to back away a little bit more, he's then backing away, taking a more submissive stance instead of a I want to wrestle you and play with you stance. If you have a horse that gets really wanting to nip on you and have his mouth all over you, I really try to avoid the punishment of don't do it, because immediately you lead into an argument where you say no, and he says, oh yes, no, yes, no, yes, and then he starts to treat you like another young horse in the free stable where you have a wrestling match, and he has to learn that the position here, the relationship we have with you is different to the way he can play with another horse, especially for the young stallions. So now we start to get a bit better control. Well, I thought we did. So keeping the hind legs moving around, keeping my position, keeping his nose in front of me. There. Not forwards. There. There. There's a good step. So the beginning bit is just that the legs start to move in the right direction. Then the front legs go a little bit backwards. Push the energy. There's a good step. Not too forwards. There's good. There's good. And I want him to go a little bit more back so he can start to lower the head. And he starts to get really this shape where he's coming low with the neck, not running into me. There's good. There's good. There's good. And relax again. Good boy. And then one more time on the good side. So you'll always have a good side and a bad side. And when you start the first pattern, you'll feel that immediately, which side feels easier. For whatever reason, doesn't really matter. The way to improve it is what's important. And actually, not working more on the side that's more difficult will help. Horses are learning, the more they do something in a certain way, the more they learn to do it that way. And what I want him to feel is where it's really easy. So that he says, oh, I can easily bend in my body, put the hind leg under, follow the rein, oh, and then I get the release. And the more times he can feel when it's right, the more times he tries to recreate that himself. So that then when I go on the side that's more difficult, he tries harder to make the right steps. So in the end, the side that's more difficult actually quickly becomes the better side. And then vice versa. If you work more and more and more on the side that's stiff, he thinks, oh God, this is hard, I've got to brace myself more and more, and he gets thinking about it being difficult instead of it being easy and trying more. So there's again, we had a starting point, it was a rough starting point, and then he slowly started to make the right steps. And then you see more and more he's getting more relaxed, more calm in the eye because he's having more bend in the body, so his posture's changing, and the dialogue between me and him gets more clear. I ask something, he has no clue in the beginning, and then he starts to get a few wrong answers, but then he starts to get a few right ones. When he starts to get the right answers, then of course he starts to feel better. Good boy.